Luokkaan kasih käteen, sormien lomahan, laulaksemme hyviä, parahia pannaksemme. Vuoltavanaan vaihdamoisen, tiestä jousen, joukahaisen, pohjan peltojen periltä, Kalevalan kankahilta.
In Kalevala, the main man's name was Vainmoinen. His fame was growing in the creation of strange noises. He trained his voice mainly for the sake of enjoyment and sang poignant verses without gainful employment. Vainmoinen could spin a phrase in a way that venerates the first generation of men, in a wave of inspiration that creates a sense of inner faith in the Finnish nation, in the days when this sinful age of impatient whims begins to blaze like a burning house. And just like murder will out, his verbal clout was heard about through word of mouth, from up north down to dirty south. Now the young Jukanen heard of Vainmoinen's fame and became jealous, cause he was newly trained in the same verbal games, and really, who could blame him? The fire of youth burned like a blue flame in Jukanen, who decided to arrange a duel to attain an even greater name than Vainmoinen, who was ancient. Jukanen's parents rebuked and forbade him to leave, but their pleas didn't do much to faze him. Jukanen amazed them and brazenly boasted, I know you both say that it's crazy and hopeless, but hey, I'm not afraid to get roasted. In this day and age, the best way to get noticed is to take the most famous poet's name and expose it as lame. Vainmoinen is a vain, inflated vocalist, so I'll take his inflated vocal vein and explode it, and someday I'll be praised and celebrated and toasted. And without wasting a moment, Jukanen departed for Kalevala, the home of Vainmoinen, his target. And far from faint-hearted, for 3 days he charted his way at a hard pace and came to the unguarded gates of the garden of Kalevala at last. But he wasn't paying attention to the road, and he crashed into Vainmoinen, who was traveling on the same path, like two locomotives head-to-head on train tracks. And before Jukanen even had his strength back, Vainmoinen blasted him and gave him flack and asked him for his name, told him to explain the crash, and he answered plain, like, I'm the young Jukanen, and I hear there's a vacant-headed, gum-toothed vagrant with a reputation here, so I've come to defame him. Vainmoinen remained cool in the face of these rude statements like a true statesman, and smoothly replied, I'm in no mood to be crucified for the sake of stupid pride, boy, so move aside. But Jukanen viewed this as a shrewdly disguised attempt to neutralize his youthful stride, and he refused to buy it, like, why should I move aside? I suggest we duel to decide who can best utilize words, with verses verbally beautified to decide the dispute, and let the loser move aside. And Vainmoinen sighed, like, verbally beautified? You certainly deserve to be verbally brutalized, since you devised this war of words to satisfy your thirst to divide orators for sport. Alright, fine. You're first. Let's see what you got. Jukanen's verse went like this. My knowledge is deep. I polish speech to demolish the weak. When I listen to politicians' policies, I fall asleep. All in all, I'd rather follow an ecologist lead and listen to the swishing of fish in the lawless seas. My vision is flawless. Even in the bottomless breach, I see what the walrus sees and feed on mollusk meat. In the halls of seaweed, the narwhal acknowledges me. I perceive the raw qualities of all I can see. From the beak of the bald eagle at the peak of the tallest tree, to the niche of the swallow that swallows the smallest seed. It all follows the pull of the dog-eat-dog creed. And if you cannot compete, then you're obsolete. So why not concede defeat and leave Kalevala to me? And Vainmoinen scoffed, like, these are all falsities. If your knowledge is deep, then it's hollow indeed. All I see is a wallow of bottomless greed that colors your speech like a black shadow as your words crash and rattle. Man, you asked for this battle, so get off the path if that's the last of your babble. But Jukanen hadn't traveled this far to get dismissed, and his next verse reflected his desperate recklessness. He said, I know you're locally respected, great, but it doesn't take much to see you're just a fake. Like snow, I'm an avalanche, you're just a flake. You get money like a church, in a collection plate. See, I'm destined to get paid while you're destined to beg. Like a drug-addicted veteran with a prosthetic leg. Allow me to demonstrate why youth is better than age. I collect wages while your memories fade. Intellectually, I gaze on unlimited space while you're afraid and inhibited. You live in a cave, this place is too big for you. It's a pitiful waste, you should just give it away and start digging a grave. Now in the face of this insolent rage, Vane Moynan's patience and poise turned to plain annoyance. He said, trust me boy, your lust for fame is poison. What's the point of making poems if you can't enjoy them? And what's the point of entertaining when you've got the lame voice of a teenage boy who came to join in the game just to make noise and be a pain, showing an absolute disdain for the ancients, going in the face of their ways and the dues paid and owing them. Now Buchanan was growing impatient and sour from humiliation and shame, cause he'd wasted his power and been laid naked in the space of an hour. So he tried to save face with the grace of a coward and said, okay, I don't have the tricks to match wits with the Lord, so I guess I'll just have to ask my fists for support and strike a dissonant chord at the tip of a sword. Besides, violence is a more difficult sport, so keep your piss poor lyrics, cause now this is a war. But Vane Moynan had heard this before, and in spite of his magnanimous nature, he couldn't stand to bite his tongue or dirty his hands in a fight. So his adrenaline ran, and he began to recite like and the land was transformed, the lake covered with waves, rocks cut away from cliffs as they started to break. The sound made the ground beneath shudder and shake, and the mountains rumbled as if under the plates lay a powerful thundercloud with a stomach ache. Buchanan was afraid, and he tried to run away, but he suddenly felt a heavy weight on his legs, and in less than a minute, a lake fit for drinking became a gray swamp with dead fish in it stinking. And in the end, when Vane Moynan was finished singing, Buchanan found himself stuck in it, sinking. Then his courage began shrinking and caving in, and he started whimpering, thinking of nothing but saving his skin. As arrogant and brave as he'd been to begin with, Buchanan now found he had to placate his nemesis, since he was in a quick mud pit with limited options. The stuff was too thick to swim in it. He said, I might have been a bit of a rude bastard, too fast to challenge the skills of a true master, but you have to forgive me. I was enthusiastic, but all I wanted to do was be like you, that's it. Please don't let me drown in this nasty ooze casket. And Vane Moynan laughed like, ooh, that's too bad, kid. But you have to admit, you did ask for it, and now you're desperate, begging me to set you free. I guess my only question is, what's in it for me? And Buchanan started offering up guns and tools and horses and mules and plots of land and money and jewels as his body sank deeper under the mud of the pool. But Vane Moynan wasn't moved by these petty concessions, cause he never had any use for pretty new possessions. And Buchanan knew that he would never get assistance unless he was ready to give something really precious. As he felt the wet caresses of swamp water on his neck, with his last breath he made a strong offer and said, my father was blessed with one daughter, and he taught her to cook and clean and do chores. And I promise you, if you want her, she's yours. I'm sure she'd rather marry you than see me a corpse. Just get me out of this horrid green porch. And Vane Moynan smiled, utterly delighted, and he recited a verse, and Buchanan glided out of the swamp and alighted on the shore, and Vane Moynan warmly invited him to visit once he and the boy's sister were united. And Buchanan returned home, ashamed and embarrassed, and announced to his parents his sister's arranged marriage. And his sister complained in badly strange spirits, like, Vane Moynan's old and has a strange appearance. But Buchanan's mother just congratulated her for finding a man greater than all the saps who dated her. She said, Vane Moynan is famous and has a way with words, and besides, look at your father and I, we made it work. But Buchanan's sister did not marry Vane Moynan. She turned into a fish, but that's another story.
Whoa.